but it is no surprise to see it immediately locked in. We have to assume T1 wanted to trade it for something, and the answer is the Scion and some Gen.G signs, as we'll keep you updated on what happened there.
I'm thinking it could be one of the champions that was hovered. Yes,
It's
it
Victor.
is the Victor for Faker, which actually, we think of Faker, we think of, you know, the Azir, we think of the Orianna, we think of the Talia, we even think of like a Akali, right, and some pop-off performances. Victor is actually his most played champion this year.
Ironic that Chovy has the highest profile clip of him at the end of the base in T1.
Yep.
But I think that this, again, we said it at the start of the series, and it will continue to be a theme. T1 is going to just blind comfort picks for Faker. They do it here with the Victor, and we do see Chovy going towards the Galio here. The Galio Pantheon combination in side lanes. Whew.
I was gonna say, this is already looking pretty scary coming out of Gen.G. The Keen Sante. Are we gonna see it?
Gen.G. This would be some pretty big guns coming out in game 3. Oh my gosh, Keen Sante, Pantheon, and the Galio.
I was kind of hoping for the Keen Camille Galio, you know, that's a classic for a reason.
True.
But the Keen Sante, also an incredible pick, and it is looking like Ruler might be going towards something that can at least deal with these front lines, right? Maybe a bit more on towards the hyper carry end of the spectrum. We do still have the Varus, the Caitlyn Bandaway, which I think should come as no surprise.
It's tricky though, right? Because when you already have a Victor and a Scion, you're kind of set up for that front to back. Xin comes in though, and actually surprised to see it make it this far in the series. Was of course on the table in the previous match before second ban phase, but now Xin versus Panth, a matchup we've seen I feel like hundreds of times worldwide.
And again, mentioning it, it's worth mentioning again, Owner, I do think, is the best Xin Zhao in the world. But I am looking at what Gen.G have, and I'm like, this is very scary. There's so many tools for them to be able to create side lane pressure and also just be able to join up for fights.
Thus far, it's both teams with draft that will make you go, oh my god, they got everything they wanted, which I hope that as we get to the rounding out, that's going to remain the case. I think that's where we have seen a lot of teams struggle. T1 being on the red side could be looking towards a carrier counter pick. One of the big values, obviously, this player has is how crazy eclectic his champion pool is. As the looking at what will be banned, we do see the Kalista, or the Renata, which hopefully means that the Kalista won't be picked. I know that was a big topic going in. Is one of these teams going to blatantly disregard the stats? Thus far, there haven't been TF bans, so I'm not feeling too bad about them ignoring it.
No TF bans, although both these mid laners have played TF somewhat recently.
Don't wish that upon us.
They looked good.
And they did, though. No, that's the important part, right? Like, they did look good.
No, it's fine.
No,
just
it's
one
true.
More, just one more TF game.
Just one more TF game. Just one more. Yeah,
Oh
you know what that
gosh.
sounds like? That's
This is
added.
sounding
You know what
very dangerous, guys.
I think it certainly is. So Ziggs banned away. Don't want to give them easy access to knocking down some of these towers or maybe neutralizing a potential bot lane matchup. And now the final ban. Got to limit Carrier's pool. Wondering if Bard shows his face in this pick ban. Very good against T1. Doro, a guy who modeled a lot of his play after Carrier, maybe looking to bring out that pick as well.
And after we see that going through, I fully expect them to pick Guma's champion here as we see the Corki ban coming out and then really save that R5 for Keria because of a lot of what we've talked about, right? Like a counter pick in Keria's hands can be so powerful. He has such a deep champ pool and it could be just something that he wants to wait to see what the rest of Gen.G are going to lock in before picking it. No hovers yet for Guma.
Really big debate because it's going to shape this composition. MF showing us more about the team fight combo. Not necessarily always about the front to back, but definitely wants to leverage the CC that the Xin, the Scion, the Victor can bring to bear.
And MF has been fine, but that pick hasn't really felt that crazy. You really are, I think, someone reliant on your opponent, kind of overextend. This should be a no-brainer. Senna and Ali to come through here. The amount of CC that Gen.G have available is insane. The one thing they do need to be careful of, unless Chovy goes for the build that I'm pretty sure we saw Shanks go into him, the full AP Galio build. Yeah. If they fall behind in mid-game, this comp lacks damage. Late game, you're obviously fine with the Senna, with the Pantheon. Even the Cassandra at that point does serious damage. No, there it is, it's fine. It's Carrier's baiting.
Yeah.
Guys. Is he baiting? Mao?
He wouldn't. There we go.
The timer's up. Is it actually up? It's Bard.
It's
Okay.
Bard.
That's still hype.
Bard
Everything is hype. Okay.
What a roller coaster.
I know.
Every hover was good.
The Pike would have been kind of insane just because that was his pick, right?
Yeah.
On which he eliminated Gen.G.
Vancouver ready for game 3. 1-1. so far. Winner here moving on to match point advantage in the series. Gen.G with a lot of tools. Fan chance a moment.
No?
No.
30 seconds.
This is a very heavily T1
Yeah, I think it's
crowd, I think. But we did hear the
Really? That
T1
never
fighting.
happens.
That's never happened.
Nah.
Underdogs, I think it's safe to say.
When it comes to the crowd, every time.
He is aura farming. He dodged a Q. The crowd went wild. Of course, Keria. It's just a constant barrage of stats and record breaking when either of these teams play on stage.
Faker passing 1,000 kills at international events, though, that's just, like, no one's ever gonna...
Against Chovy. Yeah, that's
You know how when you see like a natural phenomenon, it's too big to really comprehend what you're witnessing?
Yeah.
Like that's too big a number.
It's insane.
My man's got the spreadsheet out, farming up. You know, he's done all the math.
He made sure he hit it in
Stardew
that
Valley
game.
levels of aura farming right here.
Owner has, yep, I'm
Owner
with you.
does have aura.
And this is, as we expect, the early pressure here towards his bot lane. Guma and Keria are going to be fighting as much as they can. The only other thing I want to note is that Faker did go for Grasp, which we see a lot on Victor into melee matchups, ensuring that he will be able to farm up as much as possible, and basically for free, of the Galio, who without having help in the lane, shouldn't really be able to do too much against him.
At this point, Bard level 1, obviously notoriously oppressive, has access to the Cosmic Binding and the passive. Feels effectively like 2 skills early on. Doro, headbutt very common, right? There's not a lot you can do. You punt him away, you try to make the trades as favorable as possible. Ruler does have a bit of sustain, as does Doro, so can maybe weather the storm here. Keria packing heal as the initial spell on that Summoner spellbook.
And yeah, they should be able to easily take control over the lane. Basically, for Ruler, he is going to be at least trying to get XP, trying to get soul farming started as quickly as possible, but this lane is a very, very rough time for the Senna Alistar.
Yeah, he's sitting at 3 minions. And the stacks obviously not going well. Should be able to pick up at least a little, but also did feel like he just missed a lot. Not necessarily because of them crashing into the turret, but just early on. So not the best start there for the Senna. As we also, both junglers were spotted on their Raptors. So Gen.G bot lane, or the Gen.G bot lane knows that Owner is on their way and they won't have help. And T1 also knows that. I don't know if they spotted each other's wards. I think that at least the Gen.G one, or the one on Gen.G's Raptors was spotted. And Keen, getting Sion low is nice, but let's be real, you're not going to be able to actually threaten him unless Kenyon makes his way over. But even then, Sion notoriously hard to dive early.
Definitely can be. Chovy, the losing end of the early trades here. Victor, really solid against these melee options. Galio brings a lot to the team composition, but the early lane can be really tricky. Just the Q trading on the Siphon power, giving you that additional shielding, that additional movement speed steroid as you get the upgrade. I mean, it's just miserable to play against.
And this is, again, everything a T1 composition wants, right? As we see this bot lane not letting up on their pressure onto Ruler and Duro, but this should give them the easiest first Drake access of any game they've played thus far in the series. And they've already done a great job of locking in that first Drake and making Drakes a huge contest point that Gen.G has to fight them on.
And I think this is tough now for Canyon. Spotted as well, right? We want to see a lot of impact from the Pantheon. The ganks don't have to come pre-6, but it's nice if they do. However, with full pressure mid lane, full pressure bot lane as well, he's losing chunks of his jungle. He's going to be at risk if he moves into bot lane or bot side of the river blind without knowing where Owner is.
Laning phases outside of Keen.
Nice
Not looking too hot for now is Guma.
Good. Guma locked up, forced to cleanse. Nice little trade there coming in from Gen.G. But Keria, level 4, getting that extra Chime XP and really making the difference.
Big combo found there by Duro. Able to get the cleanse out. That's a big summoner, both with the Galio and with the Pantheon available. Makes it a lot easier later on to get a possible play onto Guma, as I think we do see the pings going down right now onto Krugs. So they do know that Xin Zhao is in that area, and Keen should be fine here, but still, Doran finding the counter pressure. Kind of both lanes going one way early, and then in the extended play, going the other. Never take that, but it's carry out a rewalk.
It's far enough away.
It's
It's
just
okay.
support
It's
combat.
okay.
Ooh, Faker with a nice wave position here. Chovy trying to get this one in. Might need a bit of support to come over from Canyon. The one thing that I will say is bot lane, yes, Ruler and Duro are weaker early, but they have a really good setup if Canyon can pay attention to the bottom side of the map.
And you already see they have set up to at least track, right? They do have wards in addition to the T1 wards that were already placed to try to track to see if Owner does decide to go for this early Drake now that it has spawned. Faker just going to shove that wave all the way in and back.
Not something we talk about often, but Faker, obviously, I think this early matchup, pre-6, is always going to feel rough unless the jungler shows up in your lane. But Faker really having an extremely dominant laning phase. Chovy having to base twice throughout that, one time without the teleport, leading to a pretty big disadvantage as Guma is sitting on the Vamp Scepter right now, so I think feeling a little bit better. Also has to sustain from the Bard to ensure that these trades, as long as they don't get all in, shouldn't be too bad.
And you can see Ruler very ready to posture forward here, recognize that owner has started the Drake, knows that he has a few extra seconds, and wants to maximize, wants to get every soul he possibly can. It's T1 right on cue.
Contest. But look at Doran. He is level 6. He's already on his way.
Chovy, Justice Punch. Taunt now bringing him out. He's trying to zoom out to safety. Has access to the phase rush, and Canyon
Vision.
ready to try and flip it. Faker looking to zone him away. Canyon would have to commit the flash.
Yeah, no. They can. And in fairness, yes, T1 get the first Drake. Yes, they once again start this early Drake stacking. I do like that Gen.G decided not to contest that.
Yeah, I don't think that was looking good. By any means, Keen wouldn't have been able to join that fight. Obviously, Doran was already there. Keen got a little bit out of it. I think was able to push in a wave towards top. And it really is more when you're actually set up at an objective or finding out key targets. So they need to get some vision as Canyon gonna get spotted.
Spotted, immediate pop. Carrier brings the entire team through that seeks off, but now Chovy's on the way, looking to find a taunt. Aegis Assault blocks so much damage, and T1 are trying to back away, but Owner caught in the thick of it, has to flash out. Still rooted over the wall, but they cannot finish the kill. Chovy, flash follow, Justice Punch. The taunt doesn't connect, but he gets the flash out of Guma, and Canyon, a blinking health bar, but managed to stand strong. Chovy locked up for a moment. It doesn't seem like they have the damage. Messy exchange on the bottom side.
And there's Gen.G trying to make use of both the ability from Pantheon to stay in the fights and the Galio ultimate, but the first global not working out for them.
Not working out, but it does give, in addition to the fact that T1 all had to rotate up for this Drake take, right? A tiny bit of reprieve in this bot side where Ruler will be able to go back.
There's also the Owner, Guma, and Carrier Flash being invested. That's a lot of really big summoners that might end up being big in the follow-up fight, where possibly Gen.G could be looking again. The ability to find a single target or even multiple, CC them and blow them up in seconds is what I think this comp is going to rely on. They need to contest for Grubs though. I think if you're also giving up Grubs with your at least 1-4 comp where you want to try and really maintain some side lane pressure, will be quite rough. And T1 not going to give that one up for free, I'm pretty sure. But Duro has been able to get to that pit, set up some vision.
Nice little stun there from Carry. Of course, important to note the Ruler doing a relatively good job of stacking, all things considered. A bit behind as he has just now got back to lane, but 34 at 14 is kind of the average for the tournament thus far. He's on 18 now, so a little bit behind the clock at this moment, but should be able to get some back. The downside is that's kind of just the silver lining on the cloud that is T1 taking control of all of these objectives. Gen.G, they have tools to go wherever they want to punish individual members, but if T1 keep grouping, there's really no angle of attack.
There's no angle of attack, and it's just
here
another...
we go. Walk up there. Punt back into the tower. Tower turned off. Guma caught out, stunned. He'll be able to run out thanks to the Bardal. It's a little bit awkward, but Doran waiting over the wall. Now the bomb coming in for Canyon. It's just a little bit weird on the top side, wasn't it?
All right. Well, I was going to talk about how it's another really nice objective take from T1. They're playing around these pushing lanes super, super well. We see both teams kind of tried to go in there, not really willing to make the full overcommitment, which is good.
Now I'm wondering whether Gen.G will call that worth, because they lost 3 Grubs. They do get obviously a decent amount of tempo towards the top side of the map, but all they got was Keen just hammering away at the turret for a little bit. This is a Cassante, so it's not really going to do nearly as much. He does farm up a small lead. At the same time, I'm wondering, based on the positioning of T1, if Carrier hadn't had to save Guma there with that ultimate, I think they would have looked for a dive, because they were actually posturing there with 4 people as Chovy 1v2ing.
Carrier. I'm going to be honest, if he's not coming in a portal through the wall, and if Faker has full mana, like maybe you believe it, but he's just there to be annoying. Duro, on the other hand.
That was a really nice recognition of how he could punt Guma back, right? Like, and that actually changed that entire dive and stopped it from potentially being a really, really big success for T1.
Yeah, and that's the thing you have to be aware of, right? T1 we've seen in so many of the series they've played thus far, if they get a small advantage, they'll always try to reach for that little bit extra, and if you give it to them for free, you'll fall behind so damn quickly. Keen, knowing he's stronger in the 1v1, has the Sheen. Ulti there, but Doran Happy to just trade back and survive. However, it's going to make his reset that much more difficult. May need to use the TP to come back to lane, as we see Chovy and Faker continue to trade in the mid lane.
We saw Chovy also roaming over towards the top side, so if Doran doesn't ult there or somehow Keen gets in front of it, could have flashed but didn't choose to do so, could have been a kill angle, but with Doran also having flash, maybe not wanting to risk it, does mean that Keen maybe has an angle to try and look for some damage on the turret as well.
Root there. Duro stepping up, but again, I think content to just farm. Ruler crossing the 20 stack threshold, grabbing what he can, but it's Cole for Guma. Clearly very aware that it might just be a battle of scaling and farming up.
Want to highlight that Chovy also has equalized most of the gold, right? The lead has been mitigated. Ever since he got his Spectre's Cowl, the trades haven't been nearly as Faker favored.
TP topside, it is just Carrier.
Hello. That's Bard, come on.
Is that what Bard sounds like? He doesn't have a voice,
I mean,
but
he doesn't have a voice, but if he did have a voice,
you could be the voice
tell
for Bard.
me that he wouldn't sound like that.
Yeah. It sounds
that
like
not
a
the Bard
wise.
vibe?
It sounds
It's
like
kind
a
of the vibe.
wise old
It is the
owl.
vibe.
It needs to be infuriating.
It does need
That's
to be
what it means
But
to be a
also
boss.
kind of
be
tilting,
good.
yeah.
Yeah. We need to hit the wholesome version of the Korean Lysandra voice, you know? Needs to be very loud, needs to be omnipresent.
Still
Keen,
is. Yeah.
hoping his jungler's omnipresent, because he's going to be in trouble now. Portal through the wall. When becomes lightning, just barely sidestepped, and Keen forced to back away as T1 set up to grab at least one plate here. Might be able to get the TP out of Keen. Don't know if he's confident to step into this one. We'll have access to the Pathmaker. And again, T1 quick to take that plate because of the earlier grubs, because of that early objective control.
Yeah, he's going to be able to take that. Meanwhile, Canyon is on this Drake on the bot side. Doran is going to kind of scout that out, but not really going to be able to do anything to contest. So good from Gen.G to recognize, again, this is a window to get onto that Drake, and also good use of their pressure from T1 on the top side and really using this MF. The way I separate like good MF teams from bad MF teams is you need to use her and rotate her around to do turret damage, right? And that was a perfect example of how they used her pressure well.
That's a good point. So much flat AD, so much additional movement speed. Those are the areas where you are favored. To see if T1 also can back it up with the team fight setup is Keen. Seems pretty unconcerned here on the top side of the map. Mountain Soul would be big for either lineup as it's 1-to-1 in Drake. So many tanky members.
And even though it wasn't used, I think a large part there was Chovy actually, as Keen TP'd back, he is a Cassante, so obviously he can stall, but both Duro as well as Chovy were already rotating towards top, and obviously if you overextend into a Galio, you just die. But then immediately, as soon as it was clear that Keen wasn't at any threat, he rotated towards the bot side to ensure that Canyon could also just take that dragon, not be threatened, because let's be real, Sion, he catches everyone off guard sometimes, okay? He has a Sunfire, that's a damage item. It's scary, you need to respect him.
Definitely do. Canyon luckily had completed the Sundered Sky already, so was relatively unperturbed, although owner has now matched him on the reset. Both very close to finishing out the jungle item. And Duro continuing to roam around looking for these picks, has opted for the Swifties. Really wants to be able to get on top of those key targets. And you can understand why. Bard very annoying, despite the very cute voice that Mao gave him earlier. Flash, Ghost. He's got Locket now as well. Gonna be a tough target to lock down as just continues to step up, and Cosmic Binding, for those of you who haven't played Bard, I think Azale's described it as the dumbest hitbox in the game when I talked to him about it. This was 2 years ago, so maybe he feels differently now. But if you hit the first half, you're hitting the second half.
Also have Ruler sitting at 30 stacks. So even though he, I think, will be slightly behind the curve, right? We're always looking at around 60, around 20-minute mark. I think it will be a little bit below that. Given how rough it was, as it actually is 51.7 stacks average thus far at MSI. And I think he's on track to hit that.
That's what you want to be. It kind of feels like your insurance policy for a composition that would otherwise feel pretty mid-game focused when you have this Galio Pantheon.
Yeah.
Of course, Cassante can scale very well into the late game, even if it is sometimes difficult if he doesn't have that flanking angle. But having Ruler as an insurance policy feels pretty good based on what we saw at Game 1 on that Jhin.
Especially since, again, T1 have like the tiniest of gold leads, but they haven't been able to have the same early impact that they did around their pressure lanes earlier in the game. We'll see if they're going to go for this Rift Herald, though, which is about to spawn in about 20 seconds.
I do want to highlight as well, T1 have been doing a really good job of ensuring that they know where the globals are, right? So both Pantheon and Galio, if they ever walk anywhere near those wards for a decent amount of time, you'll know that at least on that side of the map, you can't really make a play. The vision towards the Herald, though, not looking too hot here for T1, though Carrier now does get control of the area, and Pantheon maybe looking towards a play on bot Canyon. On his way, I think there's still a ward on Krugs. Should spot him, and maybe that is what prompts T1 to go for this objective towards top.
Yep, they've already pinged him out.
Engage on the bottom side, but giving an opportunity now for Gen.G to move in and clear out some of this vision.
This is my LCK. We are 0-0, 15 minutes in.
Heck yeah, we are.
So how you guys been doing? How's life?
Good.
I'm doing all right.
I mean-
we have a fun series going on, you know?
Oh, it's good.
I'm having a good time.
We have the time, so we should check in.
Yeah.
Crowd doing well? Okay.
Oh, nice.
Maybe
Crowd
they want
doing
some action,
very good.
which I do respect.
We
Yeah,
might
know-
get some
no,
here
no,
at
no,
this
no.
tournament.
We're all
Maybe.
sitting here. You might as well put monocles on us. We're all thinking, we're all enjoying. It's like a beautiful game of chess. You know,
Yeah.
yes.
I think you two would both look great with monocles.
Well, thank
just
you,
for
thank
the
you.
record.
Okay.
I don't know about
No?
that.
We're gonna need a monocle.
You did
for
the
our
mustache last year, but you're
Yeah, that was
unwilling to
Duro
wear a
not done.
monocle?
Duro wants blood. Never mind. No blood for Duro. Duro will back away. Okay, I might be a little bit eager for action. That was maybe a
I was
bit
gonna say that.
premature.
I don't think that
Emily,
was
get
going to
out of
go
the way. He's going in.
anywhere.
Okay, yeah, all right. It's going to be slower. It's a bit more calm, a bit more reserved. And again, I think if you're looking at the Pantheon Galio, you would kind of want more, but at the same time, because you have Ruler sitting there very comfortably farming.
So, T1 definitely isn't going to be sad about it either, though. Owner in team fights, I think, has been the standout. Both his ability to split up fights and create space for his carries, while simultaneously being a very big backline threat, something that T1 have relied on for a very long time, to the point where we saw specific counterpicks come out just to try and mitigate the impact that this man had. Canyon pulling out things like from real league deep cuts. I think it was Kha'Zix last year in spring, just to try and have something going. As still no action.
No action, and it looks like T1 have agreed for a trade deal. They said, you can have one thing, we'll take the other, as Dragon has now spawned, and T1 will be first on that objective. But Gen.G may have something to say about it.
Yeah, they have tools to get on this Drake if they want to.
Also, Keria, despite the capacity to take Smite, is still very bad at finishing objectives from...
That bar damage.
Guma really, I think, has him beat there. And he doesn't even need Smite.
It's true. So, we take a look at the total damage dealt to champions this game. You can see that it has been a thrilling 1v1 in the jungle. The strongest jungler on the patch, Pantheon, versus the best Xin in the world, as you said earlier, Emily. And what we've learned is that you don't always need to go fast with these picks.
Okay, surely now we'll have action.
No.
No, we're getting it. They're contesting.
They're fighting.
All sums up.
Gen.G,
Up.
ready to go. Eyes on
Nobody's looking for a
Gumayusi
flank.
on the side. Ulti from Keria also has the potential to be big. No cleanse, but there's a barrier for Ruler. T1 have opted out. They are not interested. There will be no blood today.
I take back my earlier
Calm
statement.
down.
That's
Take
my
a
bad.
breath, Vancouver.
That's my
Calm
bad.
down.
There will be blood against the Drake, and I don't know, turrets can't really bleed.
They
But
can't
Doran's
really.
going to get some nice damage on this top
That
tier
he
one,
is,
right?
that
They
he is.
can crumble.
Yeah, exactly.
think
He's
top
gonna,
lane's gonna go.
He's
There
going
you
to
go.
get
Yeah,
first turn
tower.
for T1. Let's go!
It's the little things.
Crowd not impressed by the turret.
Yeah, come
Oh, they're
on.
impressed.
That
They're
Sion just
impressed.
took down that
They're
turret. He's doing great. He's pushing
Doran's
out
living
this
his
wave.
best life. And
I love minions and sidewaves. Come on, guys.
I think that this is one of those games where you can understand both teams in comms are like, we skill. We don't have to actually do anything.
Yeah.
Gen.G, just because of who they are as a team, I think their team fighting has been something that they've relied on to always get them out of rough situations in late games. They have one of the best scaling hyper carries in the game. Obviously, at some point, Ruler is just going to be able to auto everyone, standing behind his army of stalwart defenders between Keen and Canyon and Chovy. And on the flip side, we have Faker with this Victor, and then also the Sion, who obviously eventually in the late game just is a complete menace. It does mean, though, that because both teams feel like they cannot do anything, they're not doing anything.
It also means that
Which I like.
whenever First Blood does happen, it will be the latest First Blood of the tournament. We've crossed the threshold.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
The build-up
The crowd
after
is
all
going
this.
to explode. Anticipation. This is how it works.
It's killing me.
This is great. I'm glad you guys are really getting the authentic
I get it.
LCK experience.
I was going
get
to say
it.
something really inappropriate.
Well-
I'm not going to. I'm just going to
We're
let
not-
people
okay, all right,
imagine
yeah,
what it
well,
was.
okay, all right.
If you have a good imagination, you'll be able to figure it out,
Okay,
guys.
Emily, all right. You're out of control. this is what it
In
does.
this game?
action.
This is how
We're
game?
losing our mind.
Where is...
All right, Carrier, come on. I know you have a good ult in you.
all right.
Duro, they're not going to engage,
Square
right?
up.
Because we're
We are
waiting. We're waiting
killing
for, and also
First Doran.
as I know that this is
Wet
two
noodle
tanks.
fight.
Don't be fooled by this.
The wet noodles
this
are
isn't
fighting.
real. No.
Max, I need a fix.
Dracos?
Okay, I need a little
Dracos
fix.
is not real.
I need a little
I'm telling you.
little bit of fighting.
Because of the globals, T1 also doesn't feel incentivized to go for fights unless they are actually 5v5ing.
Okay,
because
so
Yeah.
who is this better for?
Wow, no, that depends on
We've
It
just
depends,
gets the next Drake.
it honestly
They're
depends
handshaking.
on the first fight.
Okay.
And also, like, this, yeah, the Drake stacking.
Senna's still
They're
pretty
still a
far
good-
off. Right, we're only at 45, which is below average.
They put up the
Five.
team fight UI as
Wait,
a
Uma over the
optimistic.
wall.
Blue buff? No.
Blue buff there. Chovy looking for the engage. Carry ready to disrupt if he can, but they may have just been able to find the pick. That's a two-man, but the ulti's already coming over for Guma. Faker ready to get in the midst. Double flash out. They're going to find that first bubble. Who's going to get it? The Inca Doran's still alive. Down he goes. Chovy gets the first blood.
Mayhem for a blue buff. Not what I saw coming. First blood found by Gen.G. Kill going over to the Galio. As Vancouver goes wild, and now maybe this is the punch that Gen.G was looking for.
Herald dropped. Surely now that there's been some blood in the water, both teams ready to fight. Surely all of those cooldowns, no, it's just one kill. All right, here we are. The tension
Got your one kill, right?
continues to grow.
We got some
Chovy-
damage on mid-tier 1.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is just Owner being on that ward and then Doran heading up, Chovy immediately recognizing that he can jump on. And then this Cassante coming through. The big thing is the MF ult doesn't actually reach to do all that much damage. And then, yeah,
And in a crazy twist of fate, not the champion, the little bit of trading on the bottom side did matter.
Actually did. Yeah, that's my bad. And I want to go back to your question, Dracos, which with this composition, it really depends when you're talking. I think if you're talking once Faker finishes like a death cap, right, once he has void stuff like the free 4 item point, I think T1 is going to be feeling great in these fights because they have a front line that's extremely hard to get through. They have really good pick potential with the Bard and also with Owner being able to get into the back line. But if Ruler reaches like 100 plus 120 stacks,
yeah.
I think that Senna, with the comp that Gen.G has, just doesn't die. Because I want you to, again, look at how much CC, disengage, peel, and protection there is to set up the Senna to succeed.
It's
Yeah.
definitely a threat, a force to be reckoned with.
It's a
But,
hypothetical.
What happens? You're like third, fourth item. Now he's on 2. Emily, what are we doing until then? Is it just as simple as objective contesting? Look, Otacon is up. We're a few minutes away from Baron. 45 seconds on the Drake. It would be soul point for Gen.G. Surely we
Gen.G are
have
gonna
to
do
fist
Otacon,
fight.
and then
Yeah.
we go 2 and 2 in Drakes.
then you just trade.
Just trade.
This stalemate can go on for a very long time.
And you know what's going to happen? We're going to get one team fight, 35 minutes, game's done. I've seen both these teams do
Yeah.
it. I've seen T1 do it.
It's very charitable. I'll take
in
the rest.
multiple international games where I'm like, oh, ooh, I don't know about T1. And then they win one fight. It's a clean ace. Game's done. Gen.G have a habit of this as well as TP comes in. Drake, 10 seconds away.
The later we go, the higher the stakes gets on these fights. You can see the vision beautifully highlighted by the observers. Gen.G trying to take mid-prio first, but T1 happy to play for that little bit of chip damage. Again, these small advantages before fights really can start to add up. The good news for Gen.G, Ruler is there, has that healing. Can't stop this poke from having much of an impact.
Ruler doesn't have his flash available.
Canyon
That's actually a
looking
big
for
cooldown.
Potential flank, even though he will be spotted on vision very easily.
Furiously pinged out. T1 ready for the ulti if it does come down. Carrier has to be a bit careful here,
Getting
but does
brush
have
control.
Celestial opposition. Keen just barely not going to get hit by that decimating smash. And Gen.G really unafraid.
Taking control of the river. And T1, they do actually need to fight this. If Gen.G goes for Otacon, you can trade, but you can't afford to give them soul point this early into the game. Ruler close to 60 stacks as well.
Also, just baseline individual Mountain Soul or Mountain Drake value is so high for Gen.G.
It is.
And again, none of that poke sticking. You can see Ruler just keeping Chovy topped up. Nice
Elixir of
back
Iron
step.
used by Doran.
Ready for the fight. T1 know how important this is. They're willing to give 500 gold in the back pocket of Doran. Just have that extra little bit of power in the fight. Trying to take control. Careful about walking into the choke point. Eyes on Guma and the ulti here. Excellent interrupt from Carrier to stop Chovy from getting that taunted, and now they're stepping forward. Ulti, fantastic follow, and now there's going to be no way out for Ruler. He doesn't have anything left. There's just enough shielding to keep him standing. Ruler lives, and now the fight breaks out. Keen in the midst of the entire team. The Cassante ready to pop off. Guma can't get any damage down, and Gen.G weather the storm of T1. Ruler stays standing, and Faker and Guma are not enough to turn the fight back. They keep most of their members, but they'll lose the Drake.
And on the back half of that fight, Duro with the Alistar coming up clutch, right? Really stymies Gumayushi, and he's unable to get that like really fat MFO across.
The bodyguards do their job, because despite a great ultimate with no flash available there, as
Hold that thought. They found
Faker's
another.
That's it.
It's just the Canyon, nope.
Yeah.
He's not ready for it. That's
The Pantheon Galio combo.
I hate that was right, but we're currently sitting at 3.4k gold lead. Soul point for Gen.G. Ruler has hit his stack break point, and I'm pretty sure he's going to get the next item soon as well.
But you can see Canyon could have reset. He opted not to. He walks right into that bush because he's ready for the potential 25-minute instantaneous start of the objective. Admittedly, the T1 composition not the best at burning it down quickly. They don't have that attack speed 80 carry. They don't have the Azir as Duro may be forced back, but Gen.G giving that respect and yeah, wow, I think you nailed it. That single fight feels like has put Gen.G in firm control of the game, and it's on T1 to try to outplay or find a unique angle to get out of this.
This game is kind of a microcosm for what we've seen all series, right? When one team is able to set the map in their favor, it then becomes, because they know each other so well, really difficult for the other team to be able to counter. We saw it in the last game where T1 were just attack anytime Gen.G would try to contest for anything. They really punished them hard for it. Now Gen.G have the potential to just really set up the map how they want, continue to get this Senna kind of scaling infinitely, and be able to force T1 to face check them when it comes to objectives.
Carry on the retreat. Faker getting closer to a third item, maybe where that damage starts to get a little bit stronger.
And he needs to go towards what I imagine will be a Void Staff, because he needs a form of Shred, because otherwise you're not going to get through Gen.G already, but let alone when they're able to actually get this Mountain Soul. And I'm telling you, Mountain Soul Cassante, particularly on Keen, that's not something that's going to be fun to play into. And again, to me, the fact that Gen.G have 2 semi-globals, I think, is such a big deterrent for T1 not trying to go aggro in this game the way we've seen them do in basically any other game in the series, right? Even though it didn't work in game 1, they were still really aggressively trying to set that pace. I think they have the tool with the Bard and the Xin Zhao, but if you make one misstep into this Pantheon, into this Galio, as we could see, game becomes so hard to play.
And credit to Canyon finding that mid lane pick, playing well in the previous fight, right? The game from Pantheon in general was so quiet early on because of the lane prio that T1 had put together in draft, because of Gumayushi and Keria and Faker really all having that push out, but managed to weather that storm, managed to find the angle. Did take a bit of time, but now that they've got that fight, very much favored in gold. You can see a little bit of vision in the Otacon pit, also making sure that they feel comfortable that T1 isn't going for some kind of crazy steal.
Yeah, and we see both teams kind of fighting around this line of vision in the river. Kian has kind of been continuously pushing on this bot side. Gen.G have slowly been chipping away at that mid tier 1. I think they definitely like to get that down potentially before contesting this Otacon, but also Drake is going to be up in 2 minutes, and that's going to be massive because that's something that T1 have to contest them for.
I want to highlight with Ruler, as long as he has his flash, I think making plays becomes so hard, unless he massively missteps. And on the Senna, obviously that's always going to be more punishing than with any other character, but now with the RFC can just hit turrets, right? You can see right there, the siege is going to be relentless. Keen looking for a possible play at the Guma, and this mid lane turret I don't think is going to be standing for much longer. Keen just showing his face is enough. Guma can't defend. That's mid lane turret, third turret of the game, by the way. Finally falling here. And Gen.G, their only job is keep Ruler safe, because I do think that if you do lose Ruler, this composition just doesn't have the damage to actually go toe-to-toe with T1. You're not going to be able to kill Ona. You're not going to be able to kill Doran. As long as Ruler lives, though, and T1's backline access isn't that great.
Yeah, it's true.
So you need a flank from, what, Ona or Doran to somehow get on top of this Senna.
T1 now posturing around Otacon at the very least. They've done their diligence on clearing vision out of the pit, even if there is that stray ward over the wall. Gen.G forced to stick around. Keen in bottom lane with TP. T1 may be happy to just get that teleport out. Again, playing for those small advantages, but also it's T1, so maybe instead they're willing to bet it all on this Otacon. TP coming in from Keen. Ulti from Keria. The combo potential, what we have to keep our eye on. But Keen doesn't want to give them the space to set up. Doran trying to respond. Flash out of the gravity field. Keria going back over the wall. Canyon trying to zone away as best he can as Doran gets that health bar chunked. But not too much effective damage yet. And again, it could be Ruler just continuing to heal, continuing to top up Gen.G in the extended fight. It looks like it might be the 50-50. Guma waiting over the wall, but Chovy there, ready to deny the MF ultimate. Owner in the midst of the pit. Canyon locked up, but T1 don't have the burst damage objective. Yes, they do! It's Otacon down! A beautiful ult! Keria and Owner together securing the objective. Faker trying to make his way out. They got what they came for. He'll give his life, but will it cost them the Baron?
And it might not even be Baron. Look at the timer on Dragon. That was such a long stall. So Gen.G looks like they're going to go for the Baron instead, but maybe can turn this even into a soul as well.
Well, you see T1 are already heading over there, right? Keria is already heading over to the Drake pit. Keen is kind of following, shadowing Owner down.
It's 2 global ults. They can make their way over in a second.
Ready to go. Baron down for the side of Gen.G. Next fight.
There we go.
And they go.
Doro ready for the follow-up. Keria trying to go in. Ulti coming in for Guma, though! He lines him up and he tries to knock him down, but in goes Canyon right in the nick of time! Descending from the skies, denying T1.
Canyon immediately recognizing that he needs to drop directly into that backline. That is Mountain Soul now. It is a Baron. This game is looking really tough for T1.
And despite that fight towards Otacon, the play with Keria taking out the enemy jungler, Owner being able to secure the smite, the stalling from Gen.G was the big factor there. The fact that Senna kept them top, and that even though the objective went down, I think Gen.G are going to take that trade any day of the week.
Gen.G, the masters of these wars of attrition, playing for those little sums. Obviously not ideal to give up the Otacon, but recognize that those health bars are low, that the advantage is theirs, and push it to the fullest extent. 8K gold lead, Baron power play. Yeah, Keria can stop it back here, but there's no threat. Can't even do that. Can't even get through the Mountain Shield.
Mountain Shield blocking it there. And Gen.G's patience is second to none, as the priceless moment of the game is Gen.G have already gotten themselves a fight lead, were able to take down the enemy jungler at the beginning here. There's no Faker. They just don't have the necessary damage. And with that soul, I think Gen.G is about to go up to match point here in game number 3.
Yeah, and there you saw, again, Canyon really recognizing, okay, the one damage dealer that can potentially cause us problems is Guma. Jumps immediately onto him in the backline. That's what we talked about with this composition. The backline access coming out from this Galio Pantheon combo in tandem with the Cassante, with the Alistar. Pretty much every champion in this composition has the ability to dive either Faker or Guma on the backline of a fight.
Keria set up a portal there. Gen.G ready to maybe take it. We'll let cooler heads prevail as they just continue the siege on tier 2s, and this is where it gets difficult. I think just 5 minutes ago, Chronicler, you mentioned the ability for Ruler to siege solo, but now has the entire team there to back him up. Only 50 seconds left on the Baron, so just this wave and the next, but T1 need to hold on. Lockdown onto Keen, exhaust there, he's unstoppable, just a use of the Pathmaker. Decent damage, but again, the ulti over the top from Ruler.
They just don't have the damage. Even getting through the Mountain Shield alone took them a bunch of cooldowns.
Canyon goes in, quick ulti out, and now the response coming in. Good damage, follow-up, Keen, knocked up! Owner finds the angle, ulti over the top coming in from Faker. Ulti not going to connect from Keria, but it might not matter. Chovy trying to keep this one going, though. Massive damage going in for the Galio. Canyon living for an extra moment, but Owner finds another in the clutch. Chovy going back in for Guma, though, and Ruler's still alive. The Senna's still alive. T1 need to take down Ruler, but they're out of cooldowns. They're out of damage, and they're out of hope in this game 3.
Faker barely living on the back half of that, but you're absolutely right, Dracos. It's Ruler. He is the main carry that you need to take out. Up. Chovy gonna clear out that ward, doesn't end up finding Faker.
He doesn't know, doesn't actually get it. Gen.G, I think, have actually lost games right there in that earlier spot as Duro and Ruler decide not today. They did get the flash onto Ruler. This was a big overextension from Gen.G, and this is, I think, with T1, another reminder, cannot underestimate them, cannot give them an opening. The damage is still there. Death cap is about to be done for Faker. Guma sitting on free items. I think Gen.G is not going to give them an opportunity like that, but in 2 minutes, this Baron, if Gen.G can somehow walk into a choke point versus 4 people again, might be an angle for T1. I don't think they should be allowed to leave the base, though.
I don't think so either. But again, you highlight the death cap. Guma starting to really hurt in the context of these fights. Keria with the Bard ult is the perfect setup. While everyone on the team on the side of Gen.G can do what they want to try and disrupt T1 from getting under Ruler, if he gets caught by that ulti, and anyone on T1 is in a position to follow, he is very, very squishy, very vulnerable. The locket will not be enough, nor will the barrier.
And those are the kind of picks that T1 are going to have to look at, because if they take out Ruler, then Faker takes over, right? Then Guma takes over. We just saw how much damage can come out of these carries when they are able to actually get any sort of access.
Over the wall. Again, don't want to give them the chance to breathe. Canyon stepping pretty far forward, but Keria still has access to his ultimate.
We do have Chovy rather also finishing his death cap himself, so isn't just Faker that's sitting on that item right now. 4 items for him. And this is the real issue for T1. Outside of the Bardo, you're engaged. Pretty telegraphed. Owner jumping in, Doran going in. Even as a sound cue is desperately trying to hold on.
TP in from Doran. Owner kicking things off. Third auto primed and ready to go. We'll just back away. T1 want to hold on to as much of their base as they can. As long as that inhibitor doesn't fall, they're in an okay spot to potentially contest the next objective. Owner trading blows, tries to make his way out of the taunt. Duro on the way into the mid lane. Finds the lockup, and Owner in trouble now. Forced to flash back into safety. Keen immediately into the back line. Gumayusi has a decent angle to get things kicked off, but it might not matter. Keen doing so much work. 2v1 against the T1 carries. Doran dies in the blink of an eye, and Gen.G go for the throat.
And that's the exact backline access we were talking about with this composition. This should be the backbreaker. This should be game. After this, Gen.G are going to be on match point.
Slow, steady suffocation from Gen.G. A single fight is all they need to turn this game into not a lot of opportunities for T1. The T1 gonna have to watch their Nexus falls as Gen.G go up 2-1.
Locked up, knocked down. Gen.G slow, controlled, confident, move on.